Hello, this is Dr. Garrett Castleberry, Program Director for Communication, Media, and Ethics here at Mid-America Christian University. I am here with a video presentation that is a short lecture in response to our student discussions for week 2. And of course, our weekly readings are meant to cycle into future projects. So while we're talking about some week 2 readings, they flow right into everything we will be looking to accomplish in week 3 and beyond. And as always, we try to pick the types of readings that will carry over from not only present courses to future uses, both inside the classroom, digital or otherwise, as well as into professional realms. So let's jump into some student discussions here and try to mix it up. I think it's starting to print out alphabetically, so just so we're not at the exact same type of chronological order, we are going to work through a mishmash of questions, and I'll do my best to answer those or provide some additional ways we can think about these student-generated questions, which just continue to improve and gain momentum. I mean, really robust insights and thoughts coming out of our class. Let's start with a question or a series of questions from Elizabeth Lee. And Elizabeth has some inquiry here, and while I will touch upon the questions coming out of the Spencer book, Writing Well in the 21st Century, I didn't have the book with me in the office today, so in terms of feeling the need to cross-check my responses with the text, because it's always important that I'm getting an authentic sense of context before commenting on your discussion questions. I'll have to table the majority of those unless they feel otherwise open to discussion. So Elizabeth does ask, reflecting out of the Writing Well in 21st Century, but specifically putting it into personal terms, I find rewriting to be the best method for my revisions. And so outside of following the rules Spencer offers us, is there any good advice on how to avoid the awkward sentence? And we're all guilty of the awkward sentence from time to time, especially in that first draft phase when we're just putting our ideas to paper, to digital blank slate, right? And so one of the best things that you can do, I find, and it's something I will practice and I will always continue to encourage from students, is to read sentences aloud, right? Read your own work out loud, read it back to someone. Of course, if there's ever a peer around, whether it's a friend, family, professional peer, and they are willing and available to look at your work, it's always great. But in terms of most of the time we're writing alone, read aloud your work to yourself, and that can help us catch the awkwardness of our phrasing. Sometimes when we're just thinking through the writing process, we're skipping words because our mind knows what we're processing, so it's jumping ahead. But that's just something small. Elizabeth also asks, do you think we've spent so much time adding to language in English writing and so on, and cultural language, that we should instead start over? Or perhaps do you think the digital age we're living in could be the tool that makes us start from scratch? And I like the creativity. That's speaking of starting over from scratch. That's a new word, right? And I don't anticipate it catching wildfire anytime soon. It's impossible to start over, would be the quick response. However, we will keep cycling through things. We will cycle through language, and there will be a lot of not just words and terms, but because we're reading about popular culture at the same time, aspects of culture, and they cycle in and they cycle out. Some things go away, other things gather momentum. while yet other things gain new dimension. And when they gain new dimension, sometimes they gain new definitions. And that's that difference between denotative or primary meaning and connotative meanings, the secondary meanings. While the denotative meaning might be the dictionary definition of a given term or word or phrase or what have you, the connotative meanings or cultural meanings I sometimes associate with secondary meanings. Sometimes they gain a lot of momentum and become the primary meaning before long. So more on that in a little bit as we start to talk about another theorist that's mentioned in the book, Jean Baudrillard. Okay, so Elizabeth does have some questions coming out of the Pop Culture Introductory Perspectives text, Marcel Danisi, and reading chapter 2 this week, she asks, I tend to see popular culture having potential for positive influences, specifically reflecting on the feminism, post-feminist critique section of the chapter. She thinks of examples like Dana Scully, Xena, Warrior Princess, and even Princess Leia, all of which are pretty amazing characters. Well, you are not alone there. Many folks were right in tune and agreeing with you. In fact, the Popular Culture Studies Journal is on the verge of a special issue in which the lead article is going to be a reflection on Princess Leia and how female figures have a positive, strong influence in culture and to women and young girls. And that same issue will even include some immediate feedback papers coming out of Wonder Woman, right, which was the most successful film at the box office in the 2017 summer movie season. Okay, so progress has been made, but we all know it's simultaneously kind of lagging behind. So let's see. Do you think, with the influence pop culture has on society, do you think it has the potential to shift social norms on what a man or woman's role in society is? I would argue that it already has and continues to. At the same time, this makes some people feel more comfortable, while it makes others feel less comfortable. These societal shifts, and so we see these tensions playing out in the media. We see these tensions playing out in real life, and we could explore some case studies perhaps in not only the discussion boards, maybe some of our video responses in future sessions. So good food for thought there. Oh, finally, Elizabeth responds on our secondary reading for the week, the recap of the Stranger Things episode, right, which was meant to ping off of some of the more theoretical readings we had this week. And so, first of all, she comments, I can't wait for October 27th and the release of Season 2. I'm sure Netflix is probably going to set some records of some sort for first weekend viewership, immensely popular series, Stranger Things. Do you think writers idea cheat when they use period content like the 80s, often banking on the nostalgia factor for their success? At this point, that might be all some writers do. Many have suggested in recent years that Hollywood is, this is a term that gets passed along, intellectually bankrupt. And by this, the reference is that they are running out of ideas, or have run out of ideas, or only cash in on the best previous ideas. So it's this idea that we are we are now suffocating from, here comes another buzzworthy term, franchise fatigue. And I think some of you could, if you think about some of the franchises, media franchises, and maybe not just movies, but even TV and other areas of popular culture, I don't know that we're ever going to come to consensus, but we could recognize collectively some examples, strong examples of franchise fatigue in popular culture in general. John Lee has some questions that starts with, how confusing can a conversation be when the sender does not provide the name of the person they are referring to when relaying the message? And the answer would be very confusing, to use a sentence fragment of my own. This is in reference to, how nouns name persons coming out of the Spencer text. And a great rule of thumb for everyone to remember is, when you can leave in a proper noun, leave it in. Right? We like variation, but don't overuse and abuse, the pronouns, the he's, the she's, and so on. These can be hard to keep up with, especially if there's a lack of description in the writing in general. Another question: how much influence does the media have on our popular culture? It is suggested that changes in popular culture is connected to changes in mass communication technologies. And the first thing I would point out is that, and we're all guilty of it from time to time, that the phrase "the media" sort of suggests that it is this large, all-encompassing entity. And while we do all use similar technologies to receive mass communication, the media is in fact, multiple media conglomerates, right? They could be large corporations, they could be or used to be smaller ones, and now that we all share internet technology and social media platforms, there are these micro variations of broadcasting that occur from the small business level all the way down to the individual level, to the point of even like talking to yourself, and no one's liking your video. So that the media phrase is a bit of a misnomer there. However, we do see large media bodies that can be highly influential. First thing always comes to mind, of course, is Disney Corporation and all of their variations of entertainment. Fox News or News Corp, they have strong influence over their publics. A lot of people really take to heart the content they produce, and it has certain effects, immediate effects on those people. And the follow-up question there, changes in popular culture connected to mass communication changes. You can think about something like the evolution of a medium like comic books, and how it evolves across not just those sort of actual finite printed paper, ink to paper, but also translates into other things like action figures, toys, or then after that you have the mass production of all the kinds of tertiary paratexts, coloring books, buttons, backpacks, t-shirts, and so on. And then if the property shows enough value, hey, let's develop it into maybe a cartoon and test the market even more. And over time now we see how comic books have become big business. They are centerpiece mediations for the film and television industry. And everyone wants a little piece of that pie. So comic books could be an example of how popular culture can change mass communication technologies. And so that idea is, whereas you once felt safe, you could just simply buy a book once a month or whenever, now you need to consume it on multiple levels. You have to consume it across various mediums. comics, root source, television, film, and so on. So, great questions so far. We have a few more we're going to get to in part 2 of our discussion.